Can you smell what Tectus is cooking? So as you might have guessed, the third or fourth, depending on the order which you do, is Tectus, the people's champion.
Just some general environment info for the fight. There's a lot of reaction that's involved in this fight, and line of sight involved. There'll be stuff popping up all over the place.
So the basic premise of the fight is actually that when you kill the boss, he'll then split into two, and then those two will split into four each. Each set of bosses uses its own set of mechanics, so stuff gets really messed up really quickly, but it's a blast.
There seems to be a 10-minute enrage timer on this fight,
yes.
So keep that in mind.
Note that Tectus, or one of his smaller forms, can only die if they are channeling tectonic upheaval. This actually doesn't apply for the smallest of the ads.
It's probably helpful to mention that the raid's overall movement strategy will deteriorate and fall into ruins as the fight progresses. Essentially, all ranged and healers are going to stack alongside the wall. When the ability Crystalline Barrage is used, then that target will move counterclockwise away from the group. When Earthen Pillar is used, the whole group will need to avoid it by stepping clockwise. These abilities will be explained further later in the video.
Explained pretty much right now. Oh. So as mentioned, while the boss has the Living Mountain or Shard of the Mountain, which is, it's just a buff he has, he's basically unkillable. The buff actually drops when he uses Tectonic Upheaval, so this is your chance to kill him. And again, this doesn't apply to the smallest forms of the boss, the motes of Tectus. They can just be killed whenever.
But Tectonic Upheaval will be used when the boss reaches a full energy bar, and the ability is used for 13 seconds. It causes a lot of raid-wide damage. This again is your window to actually kill the boss or a shard of the boss. If you don't kill the boss when this is used, the boss will actually gain a little bit of life back.
Really annoying. But besides the main idea of the fight, there are a few other abilities. Aceration will cause the boss to periodically get a stack of a 5% damage increase, but these stacks depend on the damage being done to the boss, so if your DPS is going full Hamtaro, then the boss will just have like one stack on him.
Crystalline Barrage will cause a red cloud to emerge from the boss's location and creep towards a targeted raid member. When this targets you, run counterclockwise away from the raid until it stops chasing you. Just follow the wall. This hits really hard, so melee DPS need to do their best to avoid it, and healers should be watching for when it comes out. The cloud will only remain on the ground for a few seconds before disappearing.
Fracture will cause a smaller spike to erupt from the floor, dealing quite a bit of damage to everyone hit and tossing the player up. The ability has a circular indicator as to where it's going to be used, so just don't stand where it's going to erupt. Now the last ability the boss uses is called Earthen Pillar, and it's a big line of sight pillar that will appear throughout the fight. It's just a bigger version of Fracture, essentially. And it is used when the boss reaches 25 energy, and it will cause a massive circle to appear on the ground where a massive spike will erupt from it, killing anyone who stands on it, and creating a pillar that will also line of sight anyone. These will stay around for pretty much the entire fight, and this is the ability that the stacked group needs to shuffle clockwise on. It seems the only targets ranged players, so melee really don't need to worry.
So as mentioned, the boss will split into smaller and smaller forms. Initially, the big boss is referred to as Tectus. Then he splits into 2 shards of Tectus. Each of these shards will then break into 4 motes of Tectus. 4 motes of Tectus, ladies and gentlemen. The fight's over when you kill those 4 motes of Tectus.
So there actually are a few adds in the fight. The Night Twisted Earth Warper will use Gift of Earth, and this creates a void zone that moves towards Tectus. So basically, if it reaches the boss, then it will give him 10 stacks of Aceration, which is, it's bad news. He's going to start dealing a lot of damage. So to stop this from happening, players can actually step into the void zone and take a bunch of damage and slows the player who it's hit by, but it stops the buff from reaching the boss. Note that if the boss hits the player with the debuff that this soaking of the ability causes, the boss will actually still gain a stack of Aceration, so it can't be a tank soaking this.
The Night Twisted Earth Warper will use the Earthen Fléchettes ability, which is a frontal cone attack. So tanks don't face it at the raid, which will probably be difficult because everyone will be scattering and running around. So if this ability is happening, then raid members should not be standing in front of any ads.
The Night Twisted Berserker is the other ad, and it will use Raving Assault, which will cause him to drop the aggro off the tank and charge at a random player. The charge will also deal damage to anyone in its path, so basically raid awareness is the biggie in this situation because you're going to need to dodge this. But that's really all there is to it, so